After being recovered and restored, the once lost spacecraft Liberty Bell 7 is finally ready to be seen by the world again. However, given that it was originally lost in the ocean and then retrieved and restored by private groups instead of NASA, somebody seeing the capsule might have asked themselves, just who owns this thing? I'm Nick with the Cosmosphere, and in this video, we're going to talk about salvage law.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Behind me are pieces of some of the F-1 engines, which were intentionally discarded in the Atlantic Ocean after they had fulfilled their purpose in sending the Apollo 11 astronauts to the moon. Liberty Bell 7 also sank in the Atlantic Ocean, but its sinking was accidental. And after it sank, NASA was clear that they had no plans to recover the lost spacecraft. With the agency focused on the future and technology not quite advanced enough to recover something as deep as Liberty Bell 7 was, at 3 miles down, a recovery operation would have been extremely costly at a time when NASA was trying to fund trips to the moon. So when the Discovery Channel, a private company, paid for the mission that retrieved the capsule, and it was restored by the Cosmosphere, a private museum, its ownership could have been uncertain. The mission that recovered Liberty Bell 7 is classified as marine salvage, but what's that? When a craft of any kind becomes disabled or sinks in a body of water, recovering it is called marine salvage. So this can apply to a lot of situations, all of them involving a ship that is damaged a little to damaged a lot. What do you think are some common examples of when marine salvage could happen? It might happen if a boat starts taking on water, or if its engines die and it needs to be towed back to shore. Maybe a boat has a fire on board, or their navigational equipment decides it doesn't feel like working that day. At its most extreme, marine salvage involves recovering ships that are completely sunken beneath the ocean. And this was the case with Liberty Bell 7, but with an important twist. Liberty Bell 7 was originally a government-owned craft. Now, why might this be significant? This means that the US government can claim full ownership, but additionally complicating things was the fact that Liberty Bell 7 splashed down in what are called international waters. Basically, this is the idea that a country that borders the ocean controls the waters that it borders up to a certain point, 200 nautical miles or 230 miles from the shore, and that country's laws still apply in those waters. Past that, it's international waters, and the only law is pirate law. Not actually, but a country can't claim legal ownership of those waters. A great example of a difficult salvage law case was that of the Spanish frigate Nuestra Señora de las Mercedes, sunken in international waters off the coast of Portugal in 1804 by the British. It was found in 2007 by private American company Odyssey Marine Exploration, who pulled tons of coins and other artifacts from the wreck and shipped them to the US in an operation costing millions. Spain identified the wreck they'd found and filed against a claim Odyssey had made in the US, claiming that the ship and all its contents belonged to Spain as cultural artifacts. Making things even more confusing was the fact that some of the recovered coins were found to have been made in Peru, leading to the Peruvian government also filing a claim. So in this case, who gets the wreck and its artifacts? It was originally owned by Spain, but sank in international waters. Odyssey Marine Exploration put all the money into finding the wreck and pulling artifacts from it, and the recovered coins were made in Peru. Who should get the coins and be able to further recover pieces from the wreck? Well, for this ship, the case was decided by an American court who ruled in favor of the Spanish government, rejecting claims of Peru and Odyssey, and ruling that Odyssey had to return over all their coins to Spain, making their hugely expensive recovery mission basically free work for the Spanish government. But what if we changed the conditions a little bit? What if that Spanish wreck had sunk in American national waters? Would the case have changed then? Might the American government have put a claim to it? Probably not. In 2016, an American company discovered the wreck of La Trinité, a French Navy ship from the 1500s sunk in American waters off the coast of Florida. The case went to court, and the American government ruled in favor of France, entitling them to the wreck and its artifacts. Okay, one more what if. What if it had been the Peruvian government who recovered the wreck of the ship and taken its contents back to Peru? Would the Spanish have been able to get the wreck back? Well, probably not. In the actual case of Señora de las Mercedes and La Trinité, their governments were only able to get them back because an American court decided that they should. If the Spanish wanted to get something back from Peru, they'd have to go through a Peruvian court, and it's less likely a Peruvian judge would decide against their own government. Past that, Spain could go to war to try and get it back, but they wouldn't do that over one old shipwreck. Fortunately, the recovery of Liberty Bell 7 was nothing like the cases of Nuestra Señora de las Mercedes or La Trinité. NASA knew ahead of time that Discovery Channel was sending a team to recover the wreck, and they officially gave Discovery ownership of the craft. Once it was recovered, Discovery Channel gave ownership to the Cosmosphere, who restored it, and the Cosmosphere still owns it today, making it the only flown American spacecraft not owned by NASA or the Smithsonian. Marine salvage today, including the treasure hunting kind, is more advanced than ever because technology to find and recover wrecks, like sonar and ROV technology, is more advanced than ever before. If the idea of finding spooky, long-lost ships sunken miles below the surface appeals to you, you never know. Maybe you should become a marine salvager. Running to the danger zone. How